If you've ever caught yourself spiraling after a mistake, replaying it, catastrophizing it, concluding something damning about your character, you're not unusual. You're in the majority. Most people have an inner voice that applies a standard of harshness to themselves that they'd never direct at anyone they love. The roots of this are usually early, critical voices from caregivers or teachers that got internalized over time. A culture that equates self-criticism with ambition and effort. The misguided belief that being hard on yourself is what makes you improve. The research says otherwise. Chronic self-criticism drains energy, reduces creativity, and makes recovery from difficulty slower, not faster. One of the most illuminating exercises in self-compassion research is simple. Think of a friend in exactly the situation you're struggling with. Now, notice what you'd say to them. Most people find that the tone shifts completely. Suddenly there's warmth, perspective, realistic assessment of the situation, encouragement. Then notice what you actually say to yourself in the same situation. The gap between those two responses is where self-compassion begins. You don't need to immediately close that gap. Just seeing it clearly is the first step. Over time, the question, "What would I say to a friend here?" becomes a genuine redirect, a way of accessing a kinder and often more accurate response than the automatic one. Psychologist Kristin Neff's decades of research identify three interlocking elements that together constitute genuine self-compassion. Mindfulness, the ability to notice when you're suffering without getting swept away by it or pushing it away. Common humanity, recognizing that struggle, failure, and inadequacy are universal human experiences, not evidence that something is uniquely, irreparably wrong with you. And self-kindness, responding to your own difficulty with the warmth and care you'd offer a good friend. These three work together. Mindfulness without kindness becomes cold self-observation. Kindness without mindfulness can slide into denial. Common humanity without both can feel abstract. Together, they create something sustainable. The most common objection to self-compassion is that it amounts to making excuses or lowering standards. This objection is worth taking seriously, and the research addresses it directly. Self-compassionate people are not less motivated after failure. Studies consistently show they're more motivated because they haven't used the failure to reach a damning conclusion about themselves. They can examine what went wrong clearly and try again. Self-compassion is also not self-pity. Where self-pity says, "Why is this happening to me?" Self-compassion says, "This is hard, and hard things happen to everyone." One is isolating, the other is connecting. Accountability and self-compassion are not opposites. In fact, self-compassion is the psychological safety that makes genuine accountability possible. Several evidence-based practices can help build self-compassion over time. The compassionate letter. Write about a difficulty you're carrying from the perspective of a kind friend who knows your full story. Noting, when the inner critic speaks, say internally, "I notice the critic is saying," creating distance without argument. The self-compassion pause. In a difficult moment, place a hand on your chest and say, "This is hard. I'm not alone in this. May I be kind to myself right now?" Daily check-ins. A brief morning question, "How am I actually doing?" trains the habit of noticing your own experience. None of these are dramatic, but done consistently, they shift the default internal environment from hostile to habitable. The research on long-term self-compassion practice shows consistent and significant outcomes. Reduced anxiety and depression, greater resilience in the face of failure, improved relationships, because people who are kinder to themselves tend to be less defensive, more able to take responsibility, and more emotionally available to others. increased motivation and persistence, not because the bar has been lowered, but because the psychological safety to try again exists. And a quieter, more stable sense of self that doesn't rise and fall entirely with performance or others' opinions. Stopping being so hard on yourself isn't a one-day decision, it's a direction. And the research is clear, it's a direction worth choosing.